Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is the Tesla Roadster version of our podcast that we do every Tuesday. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning. Welcome, everybody. What a beautiful background picture that is.
Isn't that something?
That is something.
This is VIN number 100, and it is the only factory-painted insane green Roadster in the United States. There's 6 of them in Europe, but for some reason in the U.S., only one ended up with this color. And
Did you take that picture up in Carefree?
I did, yeah. It was test drive up to Carefree, and yeah, I thought the colors there were just stunning in the background, and of course the Saguaro definitely give it a southwestern flair. But again, this car, unlike any of the other Roadsters I test drive, got the most attention of any Roadster ever.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
And just to play with it a bit, on the way back, I was going down Scottsdale Road toward the 101, and the Lamborghini dealership is right there on the southwest corner. So I pulled the car out in front of the dealership, and big windows so they could see.
Oh, yes.
Within 5 minutes, almost every Lamborghini sales rep was outside, hovering around the car, going, "What the heck is this?"
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
But yeah, Lamborghini has a color very close to this, if not almost identical. So the reason I put this image up was I'm continuously reminded of how special this car is. We have 3 Roadsters currently side by side. In fact, Jesse, if you can bring up 3 greens. The green Roadster color is the only color where they had 4 variations in Roadsters, and VIN 100 wasn't here when I took this picture. Otherwise, we would have had all 4 together. So what I did was I posted on Facebook. I showed the variations in color between the 3, and I had VIN number 100 just below that, so you could see what the differences are. The closest to it, of course, is the one on the left behind my head, which is a lightning green.
Mm-hmm.
This car is for sale. It is a 2011, and it was a color that was only sprayed in 2011. And I think it's a Subaru color, oddly enough.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. This was also the color of my first Roadster in 2014. And the one next to it in the middle is also a car that's for sale. It's currently on our Roadster matchmaking site, and it is an email bid car. It's up to $115,000 at this point. It started at $100,000, and I'm sure it will run higher than that. This is the VIN 18 signature car, which has a very rare color, of course. We counted, I think, 23 on the Roadster census site on the registry. And it is immaculate. It is just under 5,000 miles. And let me see if I can get you some more data. Yeah, 4,984 miles. Has a strong battery, CAC 154.64, and it charges at 85% or standard mode up to 188 miles range, which for Roadsters today is very substantial.
That's really impressive. And I love the story on this particular one. Why don't you just tell us about the story?
Yeah, so we always ask the sellers, people love hearing the backstory on cars, especially with Roadsters because they always have a story, actually. He said this 2008 Tesla Roadster Signature 100 provided funding for children in need in the Northwest Florida Panhandle. The original owner generously donated this Roadster to the St. Joe Community Foundation for auction at the Destin Charity Wine Auction Foundation. So along with a bunch of bottles of rare wines, they had a Tesla Roadster. This car provided money that affected the lives of hundreds of children, including those afflicted by health issues and abuse. At the 2018 auction, the current owner inadvertently left his bitters paddle with his wife and went outside for some fresh air and some seafood. When he returned to the table, he realized his wife graciously bid on and won this Roadster. It's the kind of thing my wife might want to do too. The sparkler-clad champagne bottles popping at his table surrounding his beautiful wife was the second clue, and a kiss from the wife of the losing bidder was his first clue. So, even though he says some of the best wines were being auctioned, this roadster was the piece de resistance. Since 2018, this elusive roadster has sparingly traveled only the hill country roads between San Antonio and Austin, Texas, which is currently where it came from before it ended
Right.
up at our service center. Now, after being meticulously polished by Gruber Motors, it is time to let someone else enjoy the special sports car. So then we have an hour take. This is our version of the car. First of all, whenever you have a low VIN Signature Series Roadster for sale, valuation becomes difficult since so few of these cars exist.
Right.
This Roadster has a number of collectible components. One, very low signature VIN 18. A limited edition signature green factory color regarded by some as the Holy Grail. 3, exquisite condition with a recent paint correction and now a full PPF wrap. When you run your hand on this car, it feels silky smooth, almost buttery,
Wow.
and it just glistens and shines. 4, an ESS main battery pack that is so well preserved, it charges to 188 in standard mode with a high CAC of 154.64. That's close to new, actually.
Yeah, a brand new battery was considered to have a CAC between 153 and 155. So this is basically new as far as its CAC is concerned.
And then we go on extolling its virtues. This Roadster customer spared no expense resolving deferred maintenance, which includes full GMC level PEM rebuild. We're talking about the type of rebuild that we do where we change components, electrolytic capacitors, we change contactors, we change relays, we change the fan control socket. We do a number of improvements to that power electronics module. It's had the annual preventive maintenance done.
Mm-hmm.
The cooling fan shroud was replaced with carbon fiber. It's the 1.5s are notorious for having a black ABS plastic cooling fan housing mount. And as it ages, it cracks, it crumbles, and with vibration and age, those are usually compromised. So we end up replacing them with a thicker carbon fiber, much stronger, and it'll probably outlast the car at this point.
Probably will.
The PEM cooling and drive motor fans were replaced. The battery coolant pump is replaced. Now, these are both DC brush motors, which have two things that end up failing. You've got a bearing or bearings, and you have brushes, which essentially are like two pencil erasers that are riding on a copper commutator, which is the part that spins. And they wear with time. In fact, we've done autopsies on DC brush motor fans in the Roadster, and usually it's a collection of carbon dust that's down inside the fan where the brushes have, worn down substantially. And of course, what happens with bearings that are stickier and brushes that aren't as strong or as robust, you end up with a decrease in CFM, cubic feet per minute, which is a performance problem, especially when you consider that these are two motors that keep the battery cool, which is very important,
Right.
and keep the power electronics module cool,
Which is also very
equally as
important.
Yes. And then finally, a brake system rebuild with rotor resurface and new brake pads. So those are the improvements that this customer has made to this car. We posted this on Facebook, and we had one of the Roadster owners chime in, Keith Wellmeyer, and he says, looks like the Roadster that he saw on display at a museum in Reno, Nevada. If so, I believe the owner at that time was a former CEO of Hyatt Hotels. And I think there's a picture of that. Yeah, if you can bring that up, Jesse, it's VIN 18, and it's showing a signature green Roadster, just like this at this museum. We have not yet confirmed from the current owner that it was the same car that was being displayed at the in Reno, Nevada, at the museum. There we go. You know, if you had vision that was powerful enough, you could probably read that plaque and confirm what we just mentioned. But I tried, and I couldn't get down that granular.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
Wait a minute, Jesse's got something here. All right. What does
part
it
do you
have
wanna
a
read?
VIN number? Do you see a VIN
it
there?
does no, but it does say that this is a founder series,
This is Founders. Okay, so it's
so
not
it
this
is
car.
not going
Yeah.
to be this car.
All right.
The fact that it says it's founder series.
For those of you new to Roadsters, you had engineering prototypes, EPs. Those were usually destroyed. Then you had validation prototypes. Those are also test vehicles that would satisfy NHTSA with crash testing. And typically those did not make it into ownership, but with Tesla Roadsters, they did because, well, they were financially strapped, and it was, if they could sell them, they would.
Yeah.
Then you have, after validation, you have signature Roadsters, which in the U.S. there were 100, 250 in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And
I wonder, Jesse, did if you take a look at the plaque, the little silver plaque by the back wheel, does that say founder series on it? Oh, we can't read that one.
Yeah, it's too low resolution.
Okay.
yeah, most likely it did. All right, so there you have it. This car is currently on the matchmaking site, not the one in the museum here, by the way, but VIN number 18, and bids are up to 115. We have a gentle process for accepting bids on cars. There is no deadline. So if you're inclined, you can watch the bids, bid on this car, and when the seller feels comfortable enough with the level that the car has reached, then he will contact the successful bidder and close the deal. So if you're interested in the car, make sure you bid, and it could be out there for another few days or for weeks after this, or even a couple of months. By the way, the VIN 100 that we're showing on the backdrop here, because this was out on Facebook and it was tied to the Roadster matchmaking site, someone actually went to the matchmaking site, and VIN 100 is listed out there under collector cars. There are 3 sections there that you can see the cars at. There was the general, run-of-the-mill cars, with VIN 18 being one of those. And then you have your collector cars down below, which are very rare. I've got VIN number 5 out there, and I think the asking on that is $1.25 million.
Yeah.
And in 3 years I've had it out there, I think we've gotten 2 nibbles on it. First nibble on VIN 100 was somebody that chimed in, saw it out there under collector cars. This one is listed for $1.5 million. Now, folks, if you think that's high, based on where Bring a Trailer currently is selling cars, it's $70,000, $85,000, somewhere in there. These cars are one-ofs. They're not. They are very rare, and the owners are in no hurry to sell, but they are accepting offers if you want to throw an offer at these customers or these owners. So it looks like this customer has his first interested party at $1.5 million, and we'll see if anything happens with that.
That would be exciting to see something like that sell. But you're right; these are the ones that are collector cars. I mean, saying a Roadster is run of the mill, they're all remarkable cars.
Good point. Yes, I retract that comment I made earlier. Thank you, Mark, for pointing that out. And it's not the first time that a Roadster will set or break some records. The first one was a car that sold for $295,000, VIN 13,
Yes.
with 894 miles on the odometer. That buyer wanted to take that car off the market. Then we had the 3 Chinese Roadsters, and those also were cars that the buyer wanted to take off the market.
Right, and in that case, since it's been disclosed, it was $267,000 per car, $800,000 total for the 3.
Mm-hmm. So yes, this isn't the first time I think that a Roadster will break some records. But in the meantime, if you're interested in a Roadster that is definitely one that should be taken off the market, VIN number 18 with that signature green with 5,000 miles or just under is a great one for you to consider.
Definitely. Carlos C. Ramos on Instagram has a question for us. I'm just going to say the English ones because he didn't write the original question in English. How many hours or kilometers does the charge last on a Roadster?
On a Roadster, this particular VIN 18 charges to 188 miles. And if you did a range charge, it would probably be closer to 200, but we don't recommend it on the older batteries. But 188 miles comes out to 303 kilometers. We listed that in the posting or in the listing.
And then Swift Punisher on TikTok asks, how can I bid?
Email at or to ev@gruber.com. And if you go to the Roadster matchmaking site, which is under Gruber Motors, and look for Roadsters for sale, there's also a button you can click there to bid on the car.
Mm-hmm.
We have a Facebook post here from Europe, and the question there is, what kind of audio upgrades are recommended for the Tesla Roadster? And, that's an interesting question because it all has to do with preference. How big a screen do you want? How many options do you want in it? Do you want CD or not?
Right.
Our suggestion has typically been go to a high-end audio shop that specializes in putting performance audio systems in cars. The other reason for doing that is this technology is rapidly evolving. It changes constantly. There's newer, better product, and you're dealing with experts that can take a look at your car and decide exactly what the optimum placement will be and how they can integrate speakers into your door panels, how they can upgrade the woofer, all of those things. So we don't try to be experts in every single field. We're oftentimes acting as a broker or facilitator for the Tesla Roadsters. PPF is another example of that. In order to put in a decent wrap PPF shop, you have to have some serious facility upgrades, dust-free environment and skilled people, and you're not going to get the volume necessary to be able to retain somebody highly skilled on payroll until that next Roadster comes in that needs either a wrap or a full PPF treatment.
Plus, you gotta have a really cool photo booth.
Yeah, that too.
Like those guys have.
Oh, with those lights.
Yeah, with the lights, the honeycomb lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are pretty cool. So with the audio upgrades, we recommend going to your local audio shops. And again, you don't have to ship your Roadster cross country to get an audio upgrade. But this particular customer is in Europe, and one of our engineers chimed in, and he says, I highly recommend checking and replacing the factory amp. We've seen a few go bad. And what Mike is talking about here is one of the last Roadsters that we had that had an issue with the audio system. There is aging electronics in a Tesla Roadster. And there is an amplifier, a power amplifier that's on the side of the passenger compartment. As these products age, they're usually full of wear-type components. Electrolytic capacitors, for example, are notorious. They dry up, they short with age, and now you have a problem. Well, this particular power amplifier for the audio system ended up shorting, and the fusing was inadequate to prevent damage, and it actually killed the APS system inside the ESS battery pack, which is the DC to DC converter that provides 12-volt DC to two different places. One for the electronics and the PEM, and the other one for everything else, lights, HVAC, and all that. In fact, it's 120 amps of DC. Well, anyway, this particular power amp ended up failing, and it caused damage. So doing an audio upgrade is probably a good idea at some point, considering that the electronics are going to be aging and potentially failing as well in that area.
It sure does. I think I've only heard of the one Roadster where this has happened, but logically it makes perfect sense. We see this with the PEMs, and they're put under the heaviest load, so I could see that they would get the most failures. But anything that's electrical, we've seen electronic. We've seen the switch pack starting to go for the same reason, and the audio amp on this one that took out an APS unit.
Mm-hmm.
Not fun.
Jesse, can you pop that picture up again? 3 greens. I just realized we did not describe the third Roadster that's in that lineup. We've got the lightning green on the left, only a 2011 color. We've got the signature green, which is in the center, and that's that one for sale, VIN 18. To the right, we've got the BRG, the British Racing Green, and some people love this color. But you can see the distinct variations in the green colors there between those 3. And then you throw in Insane Green, and you realize that the greens are pretty substantially different. It's kind of like the blues. You've got Glacier Blue, which is very light. You've got Electric Blue, which is a very bright blue. And then you've got your Twilight Blue, which is a very dark.
Yeah, the Twilight Blue is almost black.
Yeah. And again, in blues, you only get 3 Roadster colors. In greens, you get 4. All right. And by the way, the backstory on VIN 100 behind us here, all Roadsters have a story. This belonged at one point to the CEO of Fresh and Easy. Do you remember those stores that started popping up all over the place? They were a combination of Whole Earth, Aldi,
Yeah, what
Trader
happened to
Joe's.
those?
Bankruptcy. Yeah,
I do
did
remember
not
those.
make it. There was even a logo on the side of this, the Fresh and Easy logo, which was removed. And the current owner in Chicago actually bought this off eBay. Do you remember eBay used to sell Tesla Roadsters?
Yes, I do.
They didn't go for very much. They were usually about $40,000 to $50,000. I think they might have climbed a little bit higher than that. But yeah, these days, not too many people sell their cars on eBay anymore. But there also have been 2 Tesla Roadsters wrapped in this color. One of them was wrapped and then unwrapped up in Colorado, I believe. And there's one in Texas currently, belongs to Eric Robertson. And I know why he chose this color. This is a really cool color.
It's I've seen an Audi sports car that was either wrapped or painted this color in some of my driving. The gentleman lives not too far from where I live, and so we've seen it a couple different times. And every time you see it, you can't help but turn your head. It is such an amazing color.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, we expect bright colors in sports cars and muscle cars. Those of you around in the 60s and 70s, usually the muscle cars were brightly colored like this too.
Yes. A couple of comments we have on Instagram. Captain Ewing says, styling designer model. He says, I'll take it if you'll give it to me, Sir Musk.
All right. And then Facebook, Chuck Longloy says, limey, and then heart.
Yes, that's very much a limey color.
It is indeed. Another image here, Jesse. Martin's Charger 1. Let's go 0 first. Martin's Charger 0. We received a Roadster, bricked actually, and usually we recommend to people that send us their Roadsters, make sure you send your charging cords, leave those in the trunk, because we will test those and make sure that you don't have any issues. The yellow charge cables notoriously fail after 5 years or so, and the reason being is a GFI plug that has a circuit board in it that doesn't like to share its voltage with any other outlets. And in typical homes, you have daisy-chained outlets. You don't get a dedicated home-run outlet that goes directly to your circuit breaker panel. And as the voltage drop occurs with other devices connected, this board suffers and eventually burns up. So we replace those, we repair them, we will extend your yellow charge cable, we will give you a 10-gauge cord instead of a 12-gauge, which is good for 30 amps instead of 20 amps. And we also do testing on the cords. Well, this is the first time that we saw a Martin Eberhard charge or a charger in a trunk. And we're going to take a look at that little box to the right. These are the adapters that go with it. It will accept either 120 volts or 240 volts. And if we go to Martin's Charger -1, you'll get to see why we say this is a Martin. Is it my microphone? Yeah, it's my
Yes.
microphone. There we go. By Martin Eberhard. There we go. Of course, Martin was one of the founders of Tesla, along with Mark Tarpenning, and he built chargers.
Bring that mic just a hair back. You moved it a
Closer.
little
Okay.
too much. There you go.
There we go. So this is a relic. It's definitely collectible, and someone actually chimed in on Facebook and said, "Well, there was another issue with this charger in that after the settlement, and there was a lawsuit after Martin was let go from Tesla. It was somewhat acrimonious, but one of the conditions of the lawsuit, he claims, was that Martin could no longer sell this charger." If any of you have additional information, we'd certainly like to hear from you regarding that issue. But in the meantime, we accept chargers for repair, both the yellow and the MC240, which is the thick black cable. We have never seen one of these. So either they are engineered exquisitely and never fail, or there were very few limited production units that were made.
Sure. I did note that yellow cable did not have a GFI plug on the end and seemed to be very short.
Yeah, that is actually an adapter. What that does is the gray box there has a socket on it.
I see.
And those twist lock receptacles plug into that box. So the yellow one is the 120 version, and then the two behind my head are the 240 volt versions, and it's most likely a dryer plug, a 6-50P plug, and then the triangular version of that same thing.
Sure,
Good
that
for
makes
50
sense.
amps, yeah. All right, have another picture to throw up here, Jesse, and this one is called, bear with me here, VIN 34. And this was actually something posted by Marco Nolte in Germany. I don't know if he's going to be at the Tesla Takeover in Austria, but it's not that far from his place. So what Marco says is, this morning, OneDrive, which is a Tesla Roadster owner, notified me about this picture. It has been taken exactly 10 years ago and shows signature 100 VIN 34, the Euro version. I'm sorry, no, that would be US version if it's a signature 100. VIN 34, after my first ride in it during the repair of a quite hard accident damage. So apparently this car was still being repaired with some of the body panels off the car. And he adds, last month, the Roadster broke down with a cell overvoltage fault. That has been the first error shown since the end of the repair, so almost 10 years without an issue.
That's remarkable, and this is a skeleton Roadster.
It is.
There's no back on it. There are no doors. There are no front fenders or hood or. Man, I'm thinking, what kind of damage did this car take?
Yeah, it probably went through some upgrades as well during the body shop phase. But what's remarkable is that you could actually drive a Roadster like this. We had a early VIN as well in 2014, I think, that we restored, and it was missing a lot of these body panels like this car.
Sure.
He says Tesla did a great job with the 1.5 PEM. No issues, no battery issues for 10 years. Incredible. But he says one of the cells developed an overvoltage fault. It turned out to be just a bad battery management board, a BMB board, not a rivet issue, which would have required a battery pull. And where that alert would have taken much longer to fix if it was a rivet problem, since you have to drop the battery. He said that the fix was I replaced the BMB board with one that I still had, and the car was ready to go again. 10 minutes pit stop for the next 10 years, hopefully. So there's a Roadster that has had minimal amount of maintenance, it looks like, and I hope that he has at least his annual preventive maintenance done on the car.
Likewise, I do too.
All right, we've got another picture here, Jesse, and this one is EV Preserve -2. Oh, 1. Let's go to 1 first. This is the time of year that my Tesla number 5, which is a very early VIN, of course, suffers in Phoenix, Arizona, because it is trying to keep the battery cool. And the DC brush motor, the coolant motor pump, runs almost continuously during the summer, and the car can lose literally 10 to 15 miles a night. So what we end up doing typically is either putting a fan in the trunk to blow on the battery, which I recommend for any of you that have 1.5 Roadsters and live in a hot environment, and or we brought it to the new EV Preserve building. And you can see some of the other Roadsters that are starting to be stored here. It is actually Victor's preference that these cars all line up perfectly like this, and they are within a micro inch of each other because I watch him and he has them back up and go sideways. But since we're going to be in Europe for 3 weeks, number 5 is going to reside in the new EV Preserve building. And we've got another picture here, EV Preserve-2, and you can see another shot without number 5 there before I brought it in with VIN 711, which is our test mule. By the way, that car right by my head was purchased after our fire, and what we badly needed was a test mule car for PEMs that are shipped to us from various parts of the world.
Right.
It's not cost effective to ship the entire car, although that is our preference when we're doing any kind of PEM work, because you want to match the repairs to the system, check other things in the car. But this particular PEM that's in the car currently is from Japan, and it has gone through successful test driving. So we use this Roadster, which now has an R80 pack in it, by the way. We bought it bricked for test mule type activity for testing PEMs. The facility, by the way, is not quite operational yet. They're still working on some detail type work in the front offices and the control room. But the eventual goal here is to have Roadsters in this storage area with power cables coming down from the ceiling, like umbilical cords, continuously keeping a charge level available for the Roadster to draw on. And then a control room with OVMS units in each car that are sending information to a central server, keeping eye on all of the car's state of charge and the conditions in the car. And that same information that we're continuously monitoring to make sure that no car ever gets bricked in our facility, it will be available to the customers on their cell phone.
Fantastic.
All right. We'll have a lot more information about how EV Preserve is evolving. Got another picture here, Jesse, and this has to do with wheels. It is White Wheels-2. We have a customer with a Glacier Blue Roadster in-house, and a popular upgrade for the Glacier Blues are to do what Dana Brunetti did to his Glacier Blue, which is put a white logo on the side with white wheels. And these are the traditional first-generation wheels that really aren't that pretty, in my opinion. But when you take them and you powder coat them white with the right car, it suddenly takes on a whole new meaning.
Sure, those are beautiful looking wheels that way.
One of the reasons I wanted to show you this is not just the fact that we do powder coat wheels, but we also repair wheels. This particular car ended up with 3 bent wheels. And the only explanation we have is that curb rash was a bit more severe than just a tiny scrape.
Sure.
So the wheels were they were repaired. We're able to our powder coater actually is able to take the bends out, straighten the wheels, and repair any of the curb rash on the wheels. So these will be going on to a Glacier Blue Roadster, and I'm sure in the next few podcasts we'll have the finished product for you to review. In this particular case, there are also new tires involved, and we're very good about letting the customers know what the date codes on their tires are and what the tread depth is so that they can make an informed decision about whether to replace the tires or not. All right, we have another picture here that we can throw up, and this is the mystery switch, and this is from Facebook again. And this is the owner in Denmark of VIN number 322, who also happens to own VIN 997 there since last year. But he's showing us VIN 322, and he said there is an extra switch next to the trunk button. Does anybody know what it does? We do not know what it does, but there's some speculation about what it might be. One of the owners chimed in and said, well, after years of dealing with coolant pump running almost 24/7 here in hot, sunny Florida, I finally decided to do something about it. Since the Roadster just taps into the existing air conditioning system for ESS cooling, I just connected 12 volts to the ESS cooling solenoid. So in other words, the switch might be, if it came from a very hot climate, an attempt to cool the Roadster, which is probably what I should do the VIN number 5.
Sure. This really does make sense to pull that ESS cooling out of a 12-volt battery, which is not part of the ESS. Now you're not trying to cool something while you're generating heat from the energy that you're using to cool it.
Well, now remember, though, the HVAC system runs off 400.
Okay.
Yeah. The switching, of course, is all low voltage 12 volt. He says, now I can activate battery cooling anytime I want. No more having to plug in or shut down the APS to get the car to go to sleep. I had put this off for a long time, dreading having to disassemble the dash, but afterwards it ended up being fairly simple. What he's talking about there is the HVAC controller that he's tapping into with this switch is by the console. And it's one of the side panels there. If you remove that, you can get at the wiring. For those of you interested in this hack and how he did it and pictures of it, Tessa Motors Club is a great repository of this kind of technical information for the Roadster. And you can see a complete write-up on how he did it if you want to try this yourself. So that's what the one suspicion what that switch may be. It could also be audio amp switching. It could be something to do with the cell phone mount that they have there. At least that's what it kind of looks like. But yeah, who knows, in other words. All right. We have another item here. If you are selling a Roadster, check out the free Roadster matchmaking site. And we will, of course, promote the car for you.
Of course.
Completely free. We have 450 pre-qualified buyers that get sent any new listings. And sometimes the Roadsters sell before they even hit social media, which happened with that last Sterling Silver Roadster that just sold.
Sure did.
Then we have an active website with lots of traffic, especially Roadster type traffic, because that's why people go to the Gruber Motors website. So your car is going to get a lot of visibility and play. If your car is at our service center, and sometimes it happens that when a car comes here broke, we fix it. The customer then decides, you know what? While it's there, I think I'm going to sell it. And which is a convenient way to sell your car, because we have daily tours. People come through, and we always point out the Roadsters for sale. Also, test drives would be available if the owner agrees of the Roadster, and oftentimes they do. So somebody can actually try the Roadster before they buy it. And as everybody knows, when you let people test drive a car, it sells itself.
Yeah, and that's going to be especially true with these Roadsters.
And then we've also begun to talk about the cars for sale on this podcast. And these podcasts get a lot of traffic. We generally get 500 to 600 views on these podcasts.
Well, now that's just on YouTube. 500-600 views. We're on 6 other platforms as well. So
Thank you, Jesse. Yes.
Yeah, we're getting hopefully close to anywhere 1,500 to 2,000 across all of our channels over the course of, say, a month after a show.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're right.
That's
We've
a
got
good
all
point.
the other.
Well, and on top of that, something else that we want to make sure of, we make the selling process as easy as possible for the sellers with our free escrow service. You know, the car that never made it past onto social media, we're doing the escrow service on, and we're getting the title today, and we've got the funds from the buyer, and so they're going to go ahead and we're going to just help facilitate that swap. That's one of the biggest challenges when you're selling a car across state lines is how does the seller know that he's going to be able to put his car on a transport, have it wait for 3 days, and actually have money for the buyer from the buyer by the time the car is transported, or vice versa. And having us sit there in the middle just takes all of those potential sticky issues out of the way.
hmm And by the way, Mark is our CFO. He also runs the accounting department, and that's the team that handles the free escrow service. And it has become a very popular way for people to sell their Roadsters these days. Would you say about half of them avail themselves of the free escrow service?
I think it's close to half, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And by the way, people always ask, well, you're doing all this for free. Why? How do you make any money? Well, we don't on certain things like this. But we feel that we want to give something back to the Roadster community, and this is one of the ways that we can do that.
It absolutely is. It's helpful to us long term to establish relationships with the Roadster owners,
Mhm.
whether or not we end up getting revenue or money from those Roadster owners.
I have another image here, Jesse. It's called Helping Hands. And as our social media presence grows, there are oftentimes companies that view our content and say, you know what, we have a product that these guys would be able to use, and they can promote our product. And since we have an engineering lab, this is a company that came along with this metal device that you see there below with the alligator clip arms on it, and it's all magnetic. You can put a circuit board on here, and there are guide pins down below that will hold the circuit board. And the deal typically is, if you guys promote our product, like we're doing right now, we'll give you a free sample of this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happened. And our chief engineer loves this thing.
I'm sure Scotty would love something like that. And it is coincidence. It's not Star Trek. It's coincidence. His name is Scott, and we call him Scotty.
Right. And in this particular case, he's got I think it's a Model S board on here, but the old traditional way to do that was alligator clips that are mounted on a heavy surface, and but this is far more versatile because it can be adjusted and it's all magnetic. So we're pretty excited about this item, and we've got some short videos out there that show how this is actually in use.
That's pretty cool. Hey, we've got a couple questions and comments as well. On Instagram, Mac313.19 says hello.
Hello, Mac.
Both Instagram on acquire_StackX asks how much.
Oh, for this Helping Hands device?
I think he was asking about Roadsters in general because
It's been up there for a while.
It's been up there for a
there.
little
Okay,
while.
that would be Roadsters for sale then. The going prices for Roadsters currently are on the low side, and this is bring a trailer pricing, $69,500, $70,000. Occasionally it will hit $80,000, and then suddenly you get a Bluebird that comes out of nowhere, a Twilight Blue Roadster.
Yeah.
Sold for $110,000 suddenly, when just a week and a half prior to that, another Twilight Blue, virtually identical, sold for $84,000, $85,000 or something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. And, the one that never made it to social media, they were asking $85,000 for that particular car. We don't typically disclose the amount of sale. A lot of times we don't know the amount of sale.
Yes, because remember, our job is we're the Tinder of Roadster. We aren't involved in the financial transaction other than escrow.
Yes, exactly. So while we happen to know that, our seller hasn't told us how much they wanted to, given us the okay to sell, to disclose. But Chuck Longelis on Facebook had basically asked the same question. I haven't looked at buying a Roadster. What would you say is a typical price in average condition?
For an average condition Roadster in this market, you can probably pick one up in the $75,000 to $85,000 range. And do I recommend doing that? I believe that this temporary lull is temporary. I guess I prefaced it correctly.
Yeah.
Right? And the fundamental reasons are a lot of people currently are selling Roadsters. There are health issues, for example. To get in and out of a Roadster requires what's called the Roadster wiggle. I just had a tour come through, actually, one of the local docs who has a Roadster, and his wife was saying, I can't really get in and out of the car anymore. My wife has been complaining about that as well. And it's not just the driver's side, it's the passenger side as well.
Passenger can be as bad as the driver's side.
Yeah. Now, you throw in a surgery or two, knee surgery, back surgery, forget it. You're not going to be able to use this car anymore. And people that are selling them are reluctantly doing so. The reason we know that is we get a backstory on every Roadster. And no one ever says, man, I'm glad to get rid of this turd. You know, it's
No.
always, I'm going to miss this car. But I have to. I have no choice. Sometimes the widows are selling the cars. But the reason for this glut in Roadsters currently is because of an aging population in Roadster ownership, pure and simple. When these cars were first sold in 2008, the people buying them were people with disposable income. That wasn't the guys raising families that had mortgages and kids to get through college. These are the people that had already arrived, and those folks are getting older.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of a Roadster like I've heard of boats. You know, well, the two best days to own a sailboat are the day that you buy it and the day that you sell it.
Right.
That's the saying. And for Roadsters, it's never been anything like that.
Yeah. All right, a few more comments there. I'll let you read those and get into the next topic.
Sure. We do have one more comment from Highlander. Thanks for joining us. And by the way, Highlander, thank you for being on our podcast this last week. That was a fun time with you. He said, I love that color. I think he's referring to this insane green Roadster.
Insane green, yes, exactly. The next picture, Jesse, is 40th-1. The Gruber companies, combined companies and individual companies, some of them have been around for 40 years now. And to commemorate that, founded in actually March of 1984, we had a 40-year bash. It was a combination of barbecue and cake and a time capsule. And here we're going to be showing, there's the cake. Okay. One of the new divisions isn't even on there, by the way, the EV Preserve.
Yes.
But here you can see some of the divisions within the Gruber companies. The original ones were actually Gruber Industries. Well, let me back way up. Gruber Associates.
Yes.
Then came Gruber Industries. Then came Gruber Power Services. Then Gruber Industries became Gruber Technical Services. I'm probably hosing this a bit now.
Well, yeah, Gruber Technical Services started up. Actually, they started up under Gruber Power Services because of the contractor licenses that we had to hold under Gruber Power Services. Technical Services needed to use the same contractor licenses.
Right.
But after that, you had Gruber Motors. And now we've got EV Preserve.
And one we're leaving out completely, which is with 7 commercial buildings, we started a commercial property management company, which is Gruber Commercial Properties. So anyway, the point here being is the cake was too small to fit all the divisions onto. But
yes,
we tried. So the next picture, Jesse, is the 40th-2. What we did was we took all of the various teams, and there were a number of them. This is one of the production teams here. And they took pictures in front of the 40th sign, and each one was polled as to how long they've been with Gruber. And, you know, I stood there right by Wally, and I was amazed at what I heard. There were 10 years. How long have you been with Gruber? 26 years.
Yeah.
28 years. 22 years. 18 years. If it was under 10, they were like new people, it seemed like, you know? But yeah, our retention runs extraordinarily high. And of course, that says something about the company. But we had all of the teams come through here. They got their picture taken. They were briefly interviewed by Janie, one of our managers, or actually directors now. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be put down for posterity in the next picture, which is the 40th-3. They bought a time capsule, and you can see that stainless steel canister. And we're now collecting things to embed in that canister, which will then be buried with our track hoe, very deep, for future generations.
Yes, and the things in that basket are some of the things going into that capsule. They have pictures of people going in there. We have one of our famous sunglass cases going in there for Gruber Motors. And we have a safety bingo that we have for, and this was a recent winning safety bingo. 1,434 days, and we pulled out some of the retired bingo balls, specifically ball numbers 14 and 34.
Very cool. The safety bingo has been wildly successful, by the way. We went for, 4 years without an accident?
Almost 4 years. Yeah, it was just it's like 3 weeks prior to 4 years, and then we had a minor accident that somebody did have to go to urgent care for. So we're on to our next 4 years.
Yep. Very commendable, and I'm very proud of the teams for maintaining that kind of a safety record. This is the time to plug the Tesla Takeover event in Europe. John Stringer is already there. He posted on Twitter, I think, this morning and said, I'm in Frankfurt and I'm seriously jet lagged. And that's all he would say. I know exactly how he feels because I'm dreading tomorrow. Tomorrow we're flying and we're going to have one layover and then into Munich.
Okay.
And that usually with a layover can take, up to 15 to 17 hours.
You should be sleeping.
Well, you would think that would be the appropriate thing to do, but when you're sitting in a plane with, people on either side of you crammed to death, and those seats are the most uncomfortable things in the world,
Yeah.
that 9 hours that you're trying to sleep does not work very well.
Never been on a flight that long. That's a long one.
Oh, the worst ones are to Asia. I mean, I'd love to go there, but that's what I dread.
Yeah.
Hawaii flights are about that long.
How long was it, Cass?
Well, it depends on where you're flying from. So I flew from Illinois once, and that was about an 8-hour flight.
8 hours. Now, see, that's not bad. I've heard 14 hours.
Yeah.
Anyway,
With
yeah.
a layover, it can be. A lot of places will stop at either Seattle or Los Angeles. Fun fact: if you're flying from Anchorage, Alaska, about a 2.5-hour flight to Honolulu.
Is that all?
That's it.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah, it's almost as short to fly to Hawaii as it is to fly from Anchorage to Seattle.
You could probably fly to Russia pretty quickly from there too, right?
Oh yeah, you could be
the
over
Bering Strait.
You could be over the Bering Strait in Russia in about 45 minutes.
Well, that's a sobering thought. All right, so the Tesla Takeover in Flachau, Germany, just outside of Salzburg. It's going to be Friday night, and Friday night is the light show, and that's at 2000 hours, which is 8 o'clock. And then Saturday, it starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, runs all the way to 5:30, it looks like, for workshops and guest speakers. I'm going to be on Sunday, not Saturday, by the way. And then there is a music area from 10 to 11 o'clock at night. No, I'm sorry, to 10 in the morning to 1800 hours. Okay, there we go, 6 o'clock. And then there is the music Stadel, they call it. This is German, by the way, so I have to translate for you guys, right?
Yes.
And that is going to be most of the evening, it looks like. Then Sunday at 11 o'clock, the festivities, no, 10 o'clock it starts again. Here we go. And I'm actually on at 11:45, so just before lunch. And what I'm going to be talking about is our history with Tesla and the Tesla Roadster and the Tesla Roadster history.
That will be a lot of fun, and it will be way too early for me. That's about 3:45 in the morning here in Arizona that you'll be talking.
That's true, yes. One of our social media team people, my son Max, will be with us. He's bringing a drone. We're going to be doing live podcasts from there, and we'll definitely record and document all the activities there, and we'll be sharing that on our YouTube channel and some of the other platforms from TikTok. So we'll keep you informed, but all of that is happening this weekend starting Friday. So for those of you interested, either join us or make sure that you watch.
We've got a few more comments coming up. Chug Longalis has said, in regards to getting in and out, he says, sounds like an opportunity for someone to design a better seat for accessibility.
Actually, Elon did that. The original Lotus Elise program was a very high threshold to get in the car. And that was one of the reasons that they ended up changing the body panels and the frame, was because Elon was unhappy with the ingress and exit capability in a Tesla at the time that it was still a Lotus Elise, or more like the Lotus Elise.
Very interesting. Highlander says about the car that he likes, lime green. Yeah, that is this is called the insane green color, but it's very much a lime green type of color. And then Chuck Longalis continued and said, when work is fun, why would anybody leave?
Yeah, good point.
And it definitely falls into that range of if work is fun, is it really work?
Yeah. It's actually play, but yeah, I fully agree with that. And, you know, I think the trick in life is to find something that you're passionate about, something that you enjoy, something that feeds the soul. Otherwise, at the end of your career, you're left empty and miserable.
Yeah. Elric 2333 on TikTok mentions Illinois plates and Arizona on the Roadster. Yes, they were. The car had been shipped here for us to work on it.
From Chicago, yes, which is currently where it resides, by the way. Okay, we've got another image to throw up here, Jesse. It is called Hardtop Case. We get a lot of inquiries about do we have a Tesla Roadster hardtop case available, and we do not. Sometimes we get some that come in with collision damage cars, for example, if the sellers allow us to retrieve some of the items like this. We currently don't have any in stock for sale. You can certainly watch some of the social media sites to see what comes available. Facebook has been a pretty good site to keep an eye on. A couple of sites there, Tesla Roadster Owners Group and Tesla Roadster Owners Club. Those are sites that you can find items like this for sale. But there are customers that oftentimes ask, why aren't these being recreated? It's not that difficult. You go to the right upholstery shop and something like this could be recreated. The problem is the minimum order requirements. To do one of these, the cost goes way up.
Yeah.
What we typically ask for is a census, basically, of how many people would be interested. And if we can get to a dozen or two, then it becomes cost effective to commission someone to make these. They're wonderful because if you lift the lid on this, which it's not shown here, there's a lot of protection for that hard top inside that hard case cover. And I do not recommend shipping it without some additional packing, cardboard box, some foam, that type of thing, because it won't ship in this case very well or very without any damage. But for general storage, this is an ideal way to store your hardtop. But again, if we can get enough interested parties, we will go to a vendor and find out what the costs are and let you know. All right, let's see if we have anything else here. There's another picture here, Jesse, and that is the Sammy's car. I saw this just a few days ago. For those of you that have been watching our podcast, you may have been aware that during the Barrett-Jackson auctions, the Sammy Hagar's car was to be auctioned off, and this is a LaFerrari. It is currently $3.4 million valuation for a pedigreed car like this. Custom color, celebrity owned. They thought this would sell for about $5 to $6 million.
Sure.
Well, the car developed a battery problem, and people recognize that we have some skills regarding resolving battery issues. So this car came to our shop for a battery repair. We got the car running. It was a very simple battery, actually, compared to some of the other things we work on. But despite that simplicity, the cost of this battery pack, which is one of the reasons they were motivated to send it to us, was $300,000. And this is for a hybrid battery. This is not a 100 kWh battery that's going to take you, 300 miles plus.
No, it was maybe not surprisingly, but it was a fairly small pack. Overall, seeing that pack out, we were really privileged to be able to work on this car ourselves.
It was exciting, yes. So what happened was Ferrari got involved, and they decided, you know what? Since this is such a visible car, we're going to replace this battery because we don't want a used battery in this car when it sells. So it is now being auctioned in October. There are 2 times that Barrett-Jackson does their auctions, January timeframe and October. So this car is going back on the auction block, and by that time, they should have a brand spanking new battery in there.
I still think it's that Ferrari didn't want to fess up to the egg they got on their face because we were able to fix the battery.
Well, Ferrari does have an ego. And so, yeah, that could have been troubling for them that an independent shop actually was able to repair their battery.
Yeah, so it's a good reason. It's going to come with a new battery now. Okay.
Yep.
Well, it looks like we have just a couple more comments, and
Yeah.
then we can close things up. Highlander first. Go Team Cass. Welcome back, Cass. We're glad to have you back.
Yeah, I
Hi.
was going to say, by the way, this is her first podcast back.
Yes, it's my first podcast back after my accident.
She's
Mhm.
alive, everybody.
I'm alive.
It's not an AI voice.
Yes, yes. So
Though they could do an AI voice for me. They've got recordings in my voice.
That's true. Why didn't we do that? We could have
Yeah,
kept
yeah. You guys could have just pretended I was here this entire time.
and then on TikTok, Elric2333. Will this improve my Tesla stock? It's a follow-up to his earlier comment that he had.
Well, Tesla stock is volatile as heck. I've given up trying to do any predictions.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my take on it is it's a long-term play. If you're trying to day trade it, I think you'll be frustrated. But I think that personally, I feel that Tesla is infinitely more than a car company.
They
They are not your traditional GM, Ford. They are a technology company and
AI.
beyond. AI, robotics, and then you've got SpaceX thrown in, and you've got Neuralink thrown in.
By the way, this morning, just a little side note, Mark Andreessen, that guy
Yeah.
that you like for the investor who does AI stuff, he was saying this morning that as soon as like Tesla bots get out there to everybody, that's going to eliminate people doing their own house chores and stuff and give people 4 or 5 hours a day or 2 to 5 hours a day back to where they'll do better self-actualization. He thinks that it's going to get to that point where Tesla and other companies are going to put so many robots out there that we don't have to do our own laundry or make our own food, clean our own dishes, any of that stuff. So
Now, I won't make a prediction, but on one hand, we have self-actualization heading toward a utopian society. On the other, we have people watching soap operas all day.
Yeah. I'm not going to say which one I think it will be.
Well, we really appreciate you all joining us. It looks like we've got an Instagram late comment here from Blue Sky Kites. He says, see you in Flachau. I'll be representing the Tesla Owners Club of Ontario. Yes, I look forward to meeting all of you. John Stringer, as I said, is already there. He won't be jet lagged by Friday, but I probably will be. And but anyway, again, we enjoy having you. I will be gone for 3 weeks, but it looks like the team is going to continue to run the podcasts.
Absolutely. We'll experiment a little bit and try some things. And I know next Tuesday we'll be live. I think I'm going to have Victor here with me as well. The following 2 Tuesdays, I'm out on business on 1 week and vacation the next. So that'll be a little bit of an experimentation. I think we will probably do a pre-recorded on those 2 Tuesdays. We'll dig into some more single topic stuff and look forward to hearing your guys' feedback.
And then the Zoom call that we were going to do. What day will that be?
At this point, I don't recall if we were going to do that on Saturday, if we were going to still try to do that and get live. That's what we were
I mean,
talking
it depends
about.
on you guys. You have to do it very late in the evening at the end of the event because otherwise it's going to be 2 or 3 in the morning for us during the middle of the day over there.
Okay. Well, we'll
So-
be in contact. And
More
yeah.
likely, you guys will still go live, but you'll go live directly from TikTok over there. We won't do it through the studio through Zoom.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So it'll be fluid. We'll do something, and we'll keep you informed. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.
Take care.